advertising, how important has photography itself been to the industry and the campaigns that you've worked on?
Well, obviously photography is fundamentally important as recording images and making images and capturing moments and conveying emotion, which is obviously what photography does. So it's been fundamental. I mean, obviously, as printed matter improved, newspapers, magazines, the use of photography grew with that. And sort of from the sort of 40s onwards, we began to see more photography being used in advertising as more magazines appeared. So one bit of technology gets better, you can use another bit of technology to create work within that sphere.
Okay, great. And creatives use the autographer to capture moments that inspire further creation and further work, just as you've kind of said. So how has technology itself shaped your career?
Well, I think there's a sort of funny thing with creative people. They're sometimes, in a peculiar way, they're afraid of technology, and they're very conservative about technology. But in fact, without technology, creativity would just come down to me singing a song to you, telling a story, or drawing something on a wall with a stick. I mean, technology is fundamental to creativity. I mean, whoever invented the piano created an amazing piece of technology that allowed music to be much more expressive. So you've got to get people to understand the value and the importance of technology, and not to fear it, to embrace it, and to make you understand, or to make you feel that this is going to help make your work better. So it's always been fundamental to creativity, ever more so today.
Yeah, thanks. Great insight. And in terms of the autographer itself, it's kind of part of the movement of wearable tech, which is becoming more and more talked about. Will it be used in the creation of upcoming BBH campaigns in any way, wearable tech?
I'm sure it will be. I mean, I think we always tend to start with the idea. What's the idea? And then what's the best way to service that idea? What's the best way to create the idea and make it come alive? I mean, I'm sort of, I constantly say advertising is 80% idea, but it's also 80% execution. You kind of go, wait a minute, that's 160%, that doesn't work. But that's the conundrum, and it's how technology infects an idea, and an idea infects technology. They both work together to help dramatise that idea and make it ever more powerful. So I'm sure we'll be looking at using wearable technology as a means of helping create a different feel, a different look in an advertising campaign.
Okay. Do you have a favourite photographer?
That's always hard, that, because it always kind of... I had a fantastic experience working with Bert Stern, who, when I was in the States, who was one of the all-time great photographers. He did the last photographs of Marilyn, famous sitting he did, called The Last Sitting. And it was wonderful. Well, I worked with him on a campaign for Reebok, but he was a brilliant photographer. He made it's a fantastic film. If you're a jazz fan, you'll know about it, called Jazz on a Summer's Day in 1958. It was shot at the Newport, just off Newport, Rhode Island. The America's Cup was being raced as the Jazz Festival was on, and he intercut with it. Brilliant, brilliant movie, beautifully photographed. Now, had the photographer been around then, I'm sure Bert would have just worn it and just had pictures being taken whilst he was going around it, shooting it. But he was a fantastic photographer. He shot all the great stars and things like that. Lovely, lovely man. Sadly, died last year, but brilliant man to work with.
I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, we all have our favourite shots of Marilyn Monroe because she's one of the most photographed women that's ever existed. And so many of her photographs that everyone loves are those candid shots that she didn't even pose for, and that were just taken off the cuff or just someone speaking to her. So I think that's something that's really special to celebrate about the autographer as well. I mean, I'm sure you probably have favourite photographs that you didn't even realise someone was taking at the time. I think that's what's quite special about the autographer.
I think what it can do is it will give you a different kind of photograph, just in the way that a plate camera took a very formal picture. The 35mm camera relaxed photography and made it more kind of personal. And I think the autographer will add another element to that. We don't know what it is yet because we haven't played around with it enough. People have got to start playing with it. When you start playing with it, you learn what you can do with it. You know, one forgets that in film, you know, the long distance lens created, or the close-up lens created a different kind of way of telling a story, because somebody could say something and then I could immediately cut in to an expression on their face, didn't have to use any dialogue, and I'd said everything about that person. So, you know, technology constantly impacts the way you tell a story, and I think the autographer will do exactly that. It'll tell a story in a slightly different way. We don't know yet what it is, but that's why people have got to play with it.
And on that note, we actually have 10 finalists that will be selected to be sent the autographer and to have a month to play with the device and see what they can do with it. So would you have any inspiration or suggestions for them on how to actually use it and how to kind of make the most of their time with the autographer?
Well, I think whenever you're doing a project like that, I think it's always in my mind, it's important to have, this is the story I'm trying to tell. So I go back to that thing about start with an idea. What am I going to do? What would I like to explain here? So you're telling a story, and storytelling is fundamental to so many things that we do, fundamental to a great way of photography. It tells a story. One picture, you can you see the image and you kind of know what went before it and what came after it. It's telling a story. So I think knowing what your story is, what are you trying to say with it, would be, I think, fundamentally important, and then letting the autographer help you find a way of doing that in a way which is very distinctive and different.
Okay, thanks. And final question, for anyone who's still using the next few days to submit their image to be selected to actually use the autographer, do you have any words of wisdom on what you're looking for as a judge to see through their images?
Well, it's always, you know, it's very interesting what makes a great photograph. And I've often debated that with other photographers over the years, and it was quite recently actually that I was talking to a very, very good friend of mine, Max Forsyth, who is also a very, very good photographer. And we were debating it, and we were talking about composition and talking about kind of, you know, structure and lighting and all of those things. But actually he said to me, you know, what makes a great photograph is something I haven't seen before. And I thought that was such a brilliant definition of it, something I haven't seen before. So that's what we're looking for.